How does a god die? How does a force of nature, a body sculpted from steel and driven by an energy that seemed to transcend the human, simply fade away? The story we were told about Bruce Lee's death is one of a tragic, banal accident. But in his world, a universe of power, money, and ancient secrets, nothing was banal. What if the murder weapon wasn't a pill, but a secret? What if the crime scene wasn't a room, but a web of lies spun to protect the powerful? Today, we are not here to celebrate the dragon. We are here to investigate his fall.
Welcome to the Kronos Dossier. I present the case. You take on the role of the detective. Analyze the clues, study the suspects, and in the end, the only truth will be the one you can prove. Let us proceed to today's case.
The air in Hong Kong in July 1973 was thick, heavy with humidity and unbridled ambition. The city was a boiling cauldron where martial arts cinema was exploding onto the world stage, and at the center of that explosion was one man, Bruce Lee. He wasn't just an actor, he was a phenomenon, a philosopher of combat, the epitome of physical perfection and mental discipline. His presence on screen was electric, that of a man who seemed invincible. And that is why the news of his death at just 32 years old didn't just shock the world, it broke it. This is the dossier of his final hours, a labyrinth of fact and fiction, where every corridor leads to a new question, and no door leads to a clear exit. The stage for this final act is Kowloon Tong, an affluent neighborhood in the city. The address is Apartment 67, Beacon Hill Road, an apparent haven of tranquility. It is here, within the walls of this apartment, that the most vital man on the planet would take his last breath. Outside, a storm was brewing. A typhoon was approaching the city. Inside the apartment, a storm of a different nature was about to erupt.
On the afternoon of July 20th, Bruce Lee met with his partner and producer, Raymond Chow. They were discussing the script for his next film, Game of Death. The meeting was productive, filled with plans for the future. Lee was at his peak, poised to become Hollywood's biggest star. After the meeting, around 4 p.m., the two headed to the apartment of Taiwanese actress Betty Ting Pei. The plan was to review the script there and later dine with actor George Lazenby to offer him a role. Around 7:30 p.m., Bruce Lee complained of a severe headache. Betty Ting Pei obligingly offered him a tablet of Equigesic, a painkiller containing aspirin and a muscle relaxant. Lee took the pill and went to Betty's bedroom to rest. Hours passed. Raymond Chow, finding the delay strange, went to check on his friend. Bruce Lee wouldn't wake up. He was in a deep sleep, almost a coma. Panic set in. They tried to rouse him, without success, but the call for an ambulance would only be made much later. When the paramedics arrived, it was already too late. Bruce Lee was pronounced dead upon arrival at Queen Elizabeth Hospital. The official cause, acute cerebral edema caused by an allergic reaction to the painkiller. End of story, or the beginning of it.
Because at the center of this web we find the first crucial character, Betty Ting Pei, an actress of magnetic beauty with long black hair and expressive eyes that seemed to hold secrets. What happens when a secret affair with the most famous man in Asia ends in tragedy in your bedroom? Fear, pressure. Was she coerced into giving Lee something else? Or, desperate to protect both of their reputations, did she wait too long to call for help? Her initial testimony to the police was confused, changing several times. The hesitation in calling an ambulance is an inexplicable gap in time, a dark window where the truth is hiding. Beside her, moving the pieces on the board, was Raymond Chow, an impeccably dressed businessman with a sharp, calculating gaze. There were rumors of tensions between the partners over money and control. A substantial life insurance policy on Lee, benefiting their company, adds a dark layer to his figure. But Chow's most damning action was the lie. After the death was confirmed, he instructed Betty to speak to no one and told the press and Bruce's wife that he had died in his own home. Why create a charade? To protect a friend's image or to buy time and hide something far more sinister? But perhaps the true enemy had no face. In the 1970s Hong Kong, one shadow loomed over every profitable business: the Triads. Bruce Lee was a proud man. He refused to pay protection fees and refused to be controlled. For the mob, his elimination would be a demonstration of power. A death by natural causes would be the perfect crime. No fingerprints, no witnesses, just silence and fear. The idea that the painkiller was swapped for something lethal fits their modus operandi perfectly.
The mystery deepens when we look at the loose threads, the echoes from the past that refuse to stay silent. The first echo takes us back 2 months before that fateful afternoon. Bruce Lee collapsed violently during a dubbing session, suffering seizures. The diagnosis? Cerebral edema. The doctors saved him, but the warning had been issued. Was it proof of a pre-existing condition? Or was it a first assassination attempt, one that failed but left his body vulnerable? Science itself, which should give us answers, only gives us a puzzle. The autopsy found only traces of equagesic and marijuana. Experts to this day question whether an allergic reaction to a single pill could be so catastrophic. The simplicity of the conclusion seems disproportionate to the complexity of the circumstances.
And then we enter the realm of shadows. In martial arts circles, there were whispers of the dim mok, the touch of death. A secret technique that causes a delayed death, appearing to be from natural causes. Had Bruce Lee, in his quest for knowledge, offended a master who took revenge silently and lethally? The tragic death of his son, Brandon Lee, years later, only fuels the dark legend of a curse. What happened in that room at 67 Beacon Hill Road? Was it an unlikely allergic reaction? An act of negligence born from panic? A cold-blooded murder orchestrated by a partner or the underworld? Or the fulfillment of an ancient curse? Bruce Lee taught us that the most important fight is the one waged against our own limits. But on his final day, he faced an enemy he couldn't see, couldn't strike, an enemy that hid in a pill, in a lie, or in a whisper from the past.
The Bruce Lee dossier remains open on the table. The pages are yellowed by time, but the questions remain as sharp and disturbing as they were in 1973. The truth is buried somewhere between science, fear, and legend. The clues have been given. The suspects have been presented. The stage for the mystery is set. Now, the analysis is yours. What does your detective's intuition tell you? Which thread in this complex web seems most promising? Go down to the comments section and build your theory. Piece together the evidence, point out the flaws, and tell us what really happened in Bruce Lee's final round. The Kronos Dossier is listening.
And here, the file ends. The clues have been presented, the motives are on the table, and the alibis are fragile. Now, the work is yours. Who is the culprit, and how did they do it? Leave your complete theory in the comments. The Kronos Dossier community is waiting to analyze your verdict. Until the next case.